Alrighty, so Chaos Arthur comes out tomorrow night as of the time of this video coming out, because I'm going to post this on Sunday morning. So it's roughly 2 days-ish before he's out, depending on your time zone and everything. So I wanted to talk about the character, I wanted to talk about the banner, I wanted to talk about should you summon, because I think this is a character that a lot of people have been excited for, but he's a little specific, and that can be a little bit of a bad thing for some players. So, we're going to get into this thing. If you're new to the channel or anything, feel free to subscribe. We're going to be doing live summons when the banner drops for me on Monday night. It goes live, whenever the banner goes live, that's when we're going live, because that's when we're going to summon. So, if you look at the patch notes whenever those come out, should be later on tonight, whenever the patch notes come out, you can see what the time that the patch is going to end, or the maintenance is going to end, and then you can just apply that to your own time zone, and then that's when I'm going to be going live, which I'll probably have the live stream sort of posted at some point on Monday, so that way you can see just whenever the live stream is going to go live, that's whenever the patch is going to drop, whatever. So either way, neither here nor there. If you want to subscribe, come by, hang out with us when we summon, feel free. But either way, let's talk about the character. So we're going to go over the banner first, because I think a lot of people are more interested in the banner stuff. And if you've been watching the gameplay over the last couple of days, you probably know at least a little bit about the character. I will touch on him and like what he does and everything, and talk about like what I like and what I dislike about him after we go over the banner. So the banner itself is pretty interesting. Do note that he is a UR character, if you have not seen that already. So he is not, unfortunately, on the 300 or 600 guaranteed, because these are SSR only. And so you're either going to have to pull him on the banner at 0.25 rates, or you're going to have to get him on the guaranteed at 900, which is a bit unfortunate. I personally almost never pull the character, like the new character. I basically never get them on the 300 or 600 anyway, so I don't think it's really going to affect me that much, but, it would be nice to have the opportunity to get them on there, so a bit unfortunate. They should just update this to where it's SSR or higher rarity, so that way you can still have a chance to get him. Really stupid that you have to go either to the guaranteed or, get lucky with your pulls to even pull a copy of him. So he's, of course, rated up. Very standard rates and everything for a new character. The banner itself is very odd. There is some human support in here for the team. There is some demon support in here on the team. There's a little bit of goddess support, and then there's just like a bunch of OC and like grace sort of potential as well, which I'm not a big fan of this banner. I made a comment about it whenever the live stream came out. Some people were saying that there's some good value in here for them, but it's obviously going to be account dependent. So you have Escanor, who I don't think is really going to be great. You have Transcendent Bond, who is probably going to be a staple on Arthur's team, so that's good. You have Margaret, and you also have Elat down here, which is probably going to be decent for a Goddess team if you want to build into that a little bit, but if you don't already have Mael or the new Goddess Liz, or Queen Liz, then probably not a great reason to build into these at the moment. You could probably just sit on those until you pull those characters, or whatever the case may be, because they're not the most relevant in the meta right now. You can still use them, but I feel like if you only have 6/6 Liz, which is a bit unfortunate. You do have some demon potential here, so you have Purgatory Melee, who's kind of old and outdated. I'm not a big fan of them putting him on the banner. I would rather have Mael in this scenario, but if you want to build into your demons a little bit, I would not worry too much about Purg Melee, to be honest, because his PvE potential is not really that great, and at least from my experience, I'm sure some of you probably get some use out of him, but his PvP potential has dropped off quite a bit, because he is over a year old at this point. Power creep is, unfortunately a very big part of this game, and the new melee just trumps this guy in every single way. You do have Estarossa, which is a staple on the demon team, and you also have Zeldris, which I don't know that you'll get great use out of this character unless you want to use if you want to use Transcendent Bond and Ultimate Escanor with Arthur instead of using LR Escanor, because he requires a full human team even in the back slot, you could potentially use this Zeldris, which could be kind of interesting. You have the big ticket items for OCs, which is the Roxy and Tyr, which is great. You have a bunch of random Ragnarok and sort of stuff here, which is fine, I guess. Some of these characters are still very useful, of course. I would have rather had Red Freya, to be honest with you. But you have Graces in here, which is good. You can always use a good Tarmiel Link if you don't have him, or you just need extra copies of him, so your Link is better. They have the backliners for the demon support, and then you have Spring Liz in here, which is terrible. So I'm not a huge fan of the banner. I could still use a couple of copies of these characters. I still need one copy of Margaret. I think my Melee's only 2/6. Transcendent Bond I think is 4/6, so I could use a couple of extra copies of him. Ultimate Escanor is very ult dependent, so having extra copies of him wouldn't hurt. I don't know. There's some value in here. It's not my favorite banner of all time, but there are some good units that you could pull. Hopefully you get some good ones. But Arthur is kind of the guy that I'm summoning for here. I don't really care that much if I pull anything else on here. But it is what it is. So let's talk about the character a little bit. The character is very interesting. I'm sure if you've been watching some of the JP, content and everything on the character since he's dropped a couple of days ago, you're probably pretty acquainted with the character if I had to guess, but just in case you're not, we'll talk about him. So for every human ally participating in battle, increases the human ally's basic stats by 5%. So he has a little bit of stat buff, which is good. Each time a human ally's special move gauge increases by 1, whether by skill use, skill move, or rank up, apply Call of Chaos to the unit. Call of Chaos is, you can stack this up to 4 times, it is a critical defense increase of 10% and a max HP increase of 5%. So once you have all 4 stacks, you are basically going to have 20% max HP increase, 40% critical defense, which is pretty good. That makes him really tanky. The thing here is that you want to get all 4 stacks hopefully within your first turn, so that way on turn 2, at the beginning of your turn, you'll actually gain Chaos's Domination. So let's just read the rest of the passive first. When Call of Chaos is at max stacks, 4, at the start of the ally's turn, remove all stacks of Call of Chaos and apply Chaos's Domination to the unit for 2 turns. So Chaos's Domination is taunts enemies, max HP plus 30%, removes 2 debuffs applied to the unit, then, when using a skill, deal extra damage by 25% of the unit's max HP. So he's going to get a damage dealt increase. It cleanses off 2 debuffs. He taunts, which is a gray taunt, by the way. It cannot be removed for 2 turns. This is what you're looking for. So, unfortunately, he's very CC based. I think this is going to be a character where you're not really going to want to go second if possible, which is why I'm going to probably end up leaning towards just building an HP defense for him, because I don't think his PvE potential is quite as good as like some other characters. Like, he definitely could compete in some PvE stuff, but I think his main use case is definitely going to be PvP. So I'm probably going to just run HP defense. That way I get more CC. I can hopefully go first, because the ideal scenario with this character is you merge your extra card that you pull, so that way you gain 2 ultimate move gauge, and then you use 2 cards. That on your turn 1 will get you 4 ultimate move gauge, which gives all 4 of his stacks. Then on your second turn, he's going to gain Chaos's Domination, which is the taunt, and then you can actually use his cards, do some big damage. His AoE is incredible, actually. It's a Flood AoE card that also has like an infect sort of effect on it called Seal of Darkness. It not only infects the character where it restricts heal-related effects, but it also reduces AoE damage by 30%. So that's very interesting. It's going to help like the AoE spam, I think, with Meliodas teams. So, unfortunately, I think a lot of Meliodas teams run triple AoE turn 1. So unless you're just willing to throw this Flood card out like at the very beginning of the game, which definitely could be the play, you might want to save it for when you get Chaos's Domination, because then you're going to deal more damage with it. I've seen this Flood card, this Flood AoE, do some really nasty damage. It's really, really cool. I love seeing AoEs do big damage. But, if you want to get max potential out of it, you'll have to save it for turn 2. But if you want to save yourself, the AoE trouble from melee, then you'll probably have to use a turn 1. So, could be a little bit of weird play there. His single target card is Flash, which I thought was the same card as Aaron's, but Aaron's is just 2 times damage dealt and then 2 times crit damage, if I'm not mistaken, but his is 2 times crit chance, 2 times crit damage. So it's very interesting. It has to be on a debuffed unit, which is not that big of a deal considering you're probably going to have the Flood card or whatever, and you're probably going to be running him with Bond anyway. So even if they have fully cleansed off their debuffs and stuff like that, and you attack with the Flash card straight up, no debuffs, if you have Bond on the team, it applies the attack related stat debuff first before the attack even goes off, and then you're just going to get the usage out of this skill effect. So it doesn't really matter in that regard as long as you're using Bond. It's a bit odd though. They don't have the stats or anything updated on the website just yet, but he's a UR character. He's brand new. He has really good stats. I don't know what his base crit chance is at the moment, but I have already seen him miss quite a few crits with this card. I'm not 100% sure why, but I assume it's because whenever they're attacking into melee, because you're using Bond, he has 3 stacks of his passive orbs already, and that's 30% defense-related stats, which means that, he has crit resistance, crit defense, blah, blah, blah. I can only assume that's the reason why you're missing crits with this card, but 2 times crit chance And, you know, you would think that it would pretty much be guaranteed, but it definitely doesn't seem that way. I've definitely seen him miss crits with this card, which is a bit weird. So I'm not sure what to think about that. The ultimate on the character is apply Power of Chaos, which is all stats plus 5% at level 1, 20% at level 6. Reduce damage taken from ultimates by 20% at level 1, 50% at level 6. And then it is a Sever card for AoE, so triple crit chance. Then applies 1 Call of Chaos to self, which is the passive stack. Not too crazy. It'll apply all 4 stacks at 6/6. If you are participating in a battle and are under the effects of chaos, I'm not sure which chaos it's talking about. Like, I don't know if it just means having Call of Chaos or if it's Power of Chaos on. Your damage dealt will be increased by 40% and damage taken reduced by 30%. So he gets tankier and he does more damage. His ultimate's pretty interesting because it does apply the all stats increase to your whole team, which is very interesting. That's actually really, really good. I don't know exactly how often you're going to get it off or anything, because like I said, he can do some really big damage. You're already using some pretty hefty damage dealers and stuff because the human team already has damage kind of covered. They really just needed support characters. So who knows how often you'll get the ultimate off, but it is a good ultimate. It's very strong, so we'll see how that kind of ages. But the character looks great. I think he looks really fun. I don't think that he's like over the top crazy, but he definitely has his use. So, should you summon? I think if you're interested at all in the human team, if you want to run the human team, if you like LR Escanor, for example, or you want to run, Transcendent Bond, or whatever the case may be, if you have the human team set up, I think he's going to be a must-have character. If you are not running humans, if you're, wanting to continue running demons or sins, for example, I don't think that this character really brings a whole lot to the table, of course. Maybe there's some value in the banner itself for it, because, Transcendent Bond is already ran on the Sins team anyway. That could be kind of nice, but that's pretty much the only Sins potential you have here. The Demon team, for example, you could pull Estarossa, maybe. You're not really going to use Zeldris, because you're probably going to be running DK, but the backliners could probably use some old gauge for your CC as well, so that could potentially be nice. But I think for the most part, unless you're wanting to run humans, this is really not that great of a banner / character to be pulling for. So, if you want to run humans, which I think have a lot of potential in the future, you got to think this is the last character, or I don't know if it's the last character. They didn't release the story chapter for this festival like I thought they were going to be, but the next story chapter that comes out is the very last chapter of the 7 Deadly Sins story, which means that they're more than likely going to be pushing into the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse content, which is the sequel series to 7 Deadly Sins soon. And if they do that, 4 Knights actually has a lot of human characters that they can pull from as far as like character, content units being translated into the game. So the human team could potentially be a lot more meta in the future, whereas like 7 Deadly Sins towards the end of the show, there's a lot of demon stuff going on, there's a lot of goddess stuff going on. I think that we could end up pushing into a very human-based meta once we get into the 4 Knights stuff. So having this character for the future could potentially be really good. Obviously, we have no idea what that's going to look like just yet, so it's a little bit of a gamble there. But if you're fine with your demon team, if you're fine with your sins team, or maybe you're using the goddess team, you can probably chill. You don't really need to summon for this character, I don't think. I really like the human team. I think it's a lot of fun. So I am 100% going to summon anyway, because I was going to, because I'm a content creator already. But if I was just a character or player, just not making content, I was already skipping banners and stuff like that, I think that this would be a banner that I would be really interested in summoning on. So you gotta have to take into your own account, stuff. But if you're interested at all in the human lineup, I think this character is going to be a must-have. So that is nice. I guess at least because even though it's unfortunate that he's kind of locked down to the human team specifically, it does help sort of like push you in the right direction. If you want to run humans, you know that he's the guy for the job. If you're not interested in humans, he's not going to work on anything else. So that kind of helps you. So let me know your thoughts and opinions on the character. I have seen him kind of drop the ball a little bit. I've seen him do some really cool stuff. Obviously, I don't think that he's like the most OP broken character. He looks really, really tanky, which I think is going to be, kind of his biggest strength. On top of the fact that he can still deal some really good damage. So we'll see how that kind of goes. But I'm interested to get my hands on him. I'm going to keep watching JP content and stuff like that up until his release. So, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts and opinions. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully this was helpful. Like I said, the character's not just out just yet, but I'm thinking that he's pretty solid so far from what I've seen. But, let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. live summons tomorrow night. Be there or be square, and I'll see you tomorrow.